You're listening to the Behind the Tee podcast, hosted by your favorite club curlers, Rob and Kelly. The show where we share our thoughts on what's happening in the curling world with the internet. But let's be real, we end up talking about football half the time anyways. Well, Rob, how are you feeling today? It wasn't a good end to the weekend, shall we say?
I know. It was a pretty tough weekend for many people. John Morris, Rachel Homan, Krista McCarville's team, the entire province of New Brunswick, and maybe toughest of all, I feel really bad bringing this up, but probably you.
Before we say why, I just want to say that we started, before we even pressed the record button, Rob was probably more devastated about this news than I was. And I thought someone died in his family, jeez. But no, thankfully everyone is alive and well. But as we do every year, we partake in a pool event through officepools.com. And it's like a fantasy pool where you have to pick who's going to win each game. So for they do it for the Scotties, the Briar. Every game gives you 1 point, and then the points escalate for every playoff round, essentially. Right. And usually in the past years, we haven't been doing too great. Like we end up tied for 753rd or something like that.
That's right. And I was trying to get a hold on how many people are in this. It's very hard because you scroll through it and it tells you. I went to the very end and saw that there was 3,748, but that's like a 30-way tie for 3,748. So I have no idea how many people are in this. I'm going to guesstimate upwards of 10,000.
Okay, I was going to guesstimate about 5.
Okay, well, 5 to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Such that if we actually finish below 1,000, that's really impressive.
Right. Except this year was different. When I checked my standing after the end of the round robin, I think I was tied for 67th place or something. I breached the top 100.
Yeah, and I was right there with you, I think. I was 1 point behind you.
We breached the 100, and I was already very impressed with ourselves. And then I had a stellar day that first playoff day, so not the day before you get into the page playoffs. There were 4 games, and I got them all correct, which bumped me up to the 4th position. I was tied for 4th.
And that was those were some ballsy picks, right? That was New Brunswick over Wildcard and North Ontario over Einerson, or I might even have that backwards, but you predicted the North Ontario and North Ont upsets to get into the 1-2 game, which probably no one else did. Can I just ask you, by the way, sorry,
yeah.
What was this is going to sound insulting, but what were you thinking? Or
what was I thinking?
It was a mistake, but what gave you the confidence to?
Let's see. Hold on. Let me go back to my pick so I can.
I feel like a real sports interviewer here. That's the most interviewee question I've ever asked you. What gave you the confidence to make these selections?
So Nova Scotia played Northern Ontario, so Northern Ontario won. That was it could have been 50-50. But I went with North On. They had the home crowd advantage. At this stage, people were actually in the stands. So I was both teams are playing on par, but I think just having that hometown boost really made a difference, and it did. Then we had New Brunswick against Northwest Territories. NWT had a fantastic week, but I just felt that their train was going to end, their journey was going to end there. And New Brunswick too was having a stellar week. And I just think New Brunswick just had the upper hand in that game. Then we get to the upsets.
Yeah, this is what we want to know.
So Canada versus New Brunswick, and then Wildcard 1 and Northern Ontario. Okay, I'm going to tell you, Canada versus New Brunswick, that was just a pure, you know what? New Brunswick is on a roll, and I feel like they're not ready to, give that up yet. And then Wildcard 1 versus North On, I actually changed that. Okay, this is really funny. I had originally set that to Wildcard 1. And then when I was reviewing them, for some reason in my mind, it didn't click. Wildcard 1 was Fleury, and I thought that it was Homan's team. So I was oh no, Homan's didn't have a great week. So I switched it to Northern Ontario again for the hometown advantage. So it was actually a mistake on my part, thinking the wrong team was playing, and that's why I switched. And then the game started, and I was oh my God, no, it was actually Fleury, and it's too late. But then I was also well, Fleury, herself, didn't actually play all week, so this may like change the dynamic of the team.
Yeah.
So, and then in the final day, the page playoff, pick Canada because Fleury didn't have a good game before, and then Northern Ontario, I picked them over New Brunswick.
And I should just throw in here briefly, I'm way out of contention at this point. I've gotten every playoff game wrong, or almost every playoff game wrong to this point. So the behind the tee status here is all riding on Kelly at this point.
In the whole championship round, the only game that I got wrong was the semifinal game of Canada versus New Brunswick. Everything else I predicted correctly.
And again, let's give ourselves, or really you here, let's give yourself some credit here. I'm going to err on the 10,000 side because that's going to make it sound more impressive that there's 10,000 people. When we woke up yesterday, you said that you were tied for third out of 10,000 people about. And we had a very serious, well, I thought it was serious. Kelly, at least, is taking this better than I am. But we chatted about, like, what should you do? The safe bet is obviously Canada, but if you want to pass the people in front of you, my thought was that you had to be aggressive and go with the upset.
We have to mention what the prize pool was for this challenge, and also the fact that we're in Quebec, we are not eligible to win.
That's right. Damn Quebec lotto laws.
Even if I finished in first place, like, it didn't really matter. So that's why I was a little more like aggressive in my picks. If the prize pool was like 10K or something, you betcha I would have picked Canada over New Brunswick. Okay. And I would have gone the safe bet. But yeah, so first place, the winner won a beer fridge. Yep.
Pretty ugly beer fridge too, I'm going to say.
What do you want to do with a beer fridge? Like, I have a regular fridge.
I know. I'm just trying to, like, my fridge is kind of old. I could kind of use a new fridge, but not that one. It's bright red.
Yeah, and then it's like a retro looking fridge.
Yeah, like it's to go in your basement, or your garage.
Then second place won a portable fire pit because, I need that living in the middle of a city.
Okay, well, I just want to say this. You might not have cared, but I really did. I wanted to see you get this. For so many reasons. One is because I was trying to help you, and I felt like every time I gave you advice, it backfired. That's why I was so apologetic. But the real reason is that I think this would have been hilarious if you had tried to claim the prize. Because again, in Quebec, we are not allowed to do this. But your brother lives in BC, right?
That's true. That was my plan B.
I know. I had visions of you calling your brother up in BC and saying, so listen, a giant beer fridge is going to land on your front steps pretty soon. You have to refer to yourself as Club Root Girl when you pick it up. Then you got to strap it onto the top of a car and drive it across Canada, bring it up to Kelly's apartment. Like, it sounded like a sitcom. Like,
do you know what I think I would have done? I'd been like, hey, I'm going to ship you this beer fridge. Keep it if you want. Or please try and sell it on like Facebook Marketplace, and I'll give you a 10% commission for like dealing with this.
I know. I wanted to see it happen.
Actually, I would have been okay too finishing in third place, because in third you won a pair of wireless earbuds, and I was like, that I think is worth more than the beer fridge or the portable fireplace.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's probably not worth as much. However, like, when it comes to what we could actually use living in our little apartments, then even wireless headphones can fit in my apartment.
Exactly. So I'll have to say we can try this again for the Briar. I don't know if we'll have as much luck.
I know. Unfortunately, I think, Kelly, you've painted a target on your back here.
Yeah.
That the world will be out to get Club Root Girl. But I think we've learned something, and it's that when you make the playoffs, like, I think you do have to gamble. I don't think you're going to get, unless you're in first place already, I don't think you're going to get too far taking the safe bet. And so I think you did the right thing. I just, I had this sinking feeling when you were asking me yesterday morning, and I was like, I bet whatever I tell her is going to be wrong, based on the kind of week I've been having. And that was the only thing I got right, that I should not have given you advice.
And this is the thing too, because so going back to the team's performances, like, New Brunswick had one hell of a week. Like, no one would have predicted they get that far. I think the odds for them winning were like 67-1 or something.
Something like that, yeah. And can I just add quickly, by the way, one more thing about the office pools thing, that then I'll close the door on that because it's too painful. But one thing that I didn't really like, as you mentioned, is that the points got more significant deeper into the tournament. So every round robin game you predicted correctly got you 1 point. The playoffs were, but the semifinal was 5, and the championship final was 10. And
Yeah.
so when I found that out, even though you have dominated the playoffs, you've gotten virtually everything right. I looked at that and I said, well, screw it. I'm going to pick McCarville. I didn't think she would actually win, but had McCarville actually pulled it off, I would have passed you. And that doesn't make any sense. I had no business finishing ahead of you.
Well, I think that's what makes it interesting. It's that, like, even if it's a contest, like, the thing is, you don't want the winners, the top team, like the top people, having the win locked in the semifinal.
I suppose, like our football pool.
Exactly. Like the football, I don't care anymore because everything is worth 1 point, and you're up.
I'll tell you about that. Yeah, my opinion is just that like 10 points was a little bit steep. Like I thought it was ridiculous that you could get every playoff game right, but I could technically catch you by just getting the final by going with McCarville. So that I thought was weird.
It's gambling. It's gambling.
It's fun. It's fun. And to make this up to you, because I feel like I steered you wrong, we're doing this for football as well. But the difference is for this, we were competing against the other 10,000 people. For our NFL pool, it's you, me, and a challenger that came along. It's just 3 of us. So I set it up, and I didn't even look at the settings and realize that you could make the playoffs worth more. So I clinched it, I think, a couple of weeks ago. However,
you clinched it halfway through the season.
I think so. However, if you count playoff matchups as being worth more, which I do think they should be, then it gets really close. Maybe I should go in and do the math, but I'm just going to say you win. You called every NFL playoff upset, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, so you get it. You win.
I feel like we should go back and do the math. There was one weekend I called them all almost, or I called all the upsets. But then last weekend was really bad.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've been wrong since the first weekend, I think. So to make it up to you, I will declare you the winner.
Well, hold on. Declare me the winner if the Bengals win the Super Bowl.
Okay, we'll see. Yes.
We'll make the Super Bowl worth 20 points. So whoever.
I was going to pick Cincinnati too, but should I pick LA just to be different?
Yeah, you're going to pick the safe bet.
Yeah, this time I will. Oh, no. By the way, one other quick thing is that the first time we tried this, it was also funny. We made a joint account, and you made picks, and then I went in and changed a few. And I think you must have done that too for some of mine. Like I think we changed each other's, which I thought itself was kind of funny. Normally, when we changed each other's picks, it was not good.
No. But I think we'll have to stick with our own accounts these days.
Yeah, this is more interesting. But yeah, and just to finally get to the actual curling and not us betting on curling, this is 2 kind of behind the tee tropes that have gone the way of the dinosaur. Us being bad at predicting. Well, really, I'm still bad. You're now amazing, though. And we always would point to New Brunswick as a have-not province in curling, as a province that we could never count on to go very far. And boy, Kelly, they changed that narrative, didn't they?
Yeah. I have a comment. I was thinking about this the other day while watching the curling this week, and even while editing last week's podcast, where we kind of made a comment that the curling isn't stellar this year, to say just across the board. Like there was just a lot of like missed opportunities, not capitalizing on the other team's misses, like throwing 75% average. Like it wasn't that great. And I think because of the pandemic in the past 2 years, no one has really competed. There hasn't been any Grand Slams. Like there wasn't much of a tour. Like a lot of teams just didn't travel and they just played locally. And I think that's why the curling wasn't as great this year. And it kind of leveled the playing field out, I find. And that's why this year we saw a lot of teams that had success that typically wouldn't, like New Brunswick, like Northwest Territories, North Ont is kind of like on that borderline. But like teams like Alberta and Homan and like all those other top teams not performing to the best that they can. And I think just the fact that they weren't able to play had a huge effect on that. Just like New Brunswick and Northern Ontario, they've said, like, we don't play the tour, we don't travel. And so they're already like at a disadvantage. And now that the other teams weren't playing the tour,
the other teams are finding out what it's like to be in
Exactly.
these have-not provinces.
It
Yeah.
leveled the playing field, and it also showed like, hey, Canada, like curling Canada, you have to invest in these other provinces because they don't have the means to play the tour and travel like that. And this is how we're getting that difference between the top elite curlers and the regular competitive ones, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel the exact same way. Because one thing is that, first of all, I agree with you that the curling was a little bit less than stellar. The more cynical part of me is saying, well, we've been saying that about curling since before COVID. However, I agree with you. I think a lot of the teams that we're accustomed to seeing perform very well came out pretty flat. And I think really we all know why. It's that they're not playing the way that they're not following their normal practice and schedule routines.
Yep.
So it did level the playing field. And the other thing is that the door was a little bit more open this year because, for one thing, the Olympics took Jennifer Jones out of the equation. It took Rachel Homan out as well. So the door was a little bit more open than it normally is, as is the custom every 4 years.
Yeah. But even then, like Einarson, like she won, so congratulations to that team, and they definitely deserved it. But they didn't play that great either this year. Like they had some tough games.
They did, although one thing that I kind of here we are talking about good predictions. A listener got in touch with me today to say, "What the hell were you thinking?" From our episode from a couple of weeks ago, where we made our Scotties picks to win,
Oh yeah.
because those were awful. Neither of us put Einarson in our top three, and you'd think by now we would know. The title of this episode is right, like "Don't Bet Against Shannon Burchard."
Yeah.
Like we should know better. Our my three to make it to the final three were Tracy Fleury, which was not a terrible pick. No, it wasn't Chelsea Carey. I always default to her. I said Rachel Homan.
Yeah.
And Saz Homan, of course, just to be interesting. I didn't really think they would, but it would have been interesting had they made it with Emma. And Laura Walker. Now, you had Laura Walker winning the whole thing. I forget who your other top two. I think you had Fleury, and I don't remember who your third was, but I wasn't Einarson. We both had Einarson outside our top three.
Did I put North on?
Yes, you did. So that was a good call. That was it.
Yeah, I know, but again, like Alberta, like they fell completely flat.
They did. I have to say, like, obviously New Brunswick was the surprise of the week, but the biggest disappointment of the week has to be Alberta.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I was listening to our episode from last week, which we recorded first couple of days into the Scotties, and we commented that Alberta was sitting at 2-2, but they could very easily be 0-4. And I know a lot of teams go through like slow starts and then they get it going. Well, they only got worse from that point. They finished below 500, I think.
Yeah.
Which for Alberta, that's pretty unexpected.
I don't know what happened there in terms of planning or preparation for the Scotties, but I think of all the years, this was the year that New Brunswick was gonna make their mark.
Yeah, the stars aligned for New Brunswick, and I just wanted to actually get back to one thing that you brought up before, that this has kind of highlighted the inequity of curling in this country. And unfortunately, I don't think, and I could be wrong here, and I'm going to say something pretty accusatory, but I don't think Curling Canada is going to jump on anything to do this. I feel the impression that I've got from Curling Canada for years is that they were cheering hard for Einarson this whole week because, and I get their position, they want the you can see me doing air quotes, best representative for Canada to win at the Worlds. And for me, I just, that's never worked for me. I would much rather see a team like Krista McCarville or Andrea Crawford get the chance to represent Canada, even if they lose every game. And I feel bad saying this about Carrie Einarson. I mean, she's not had a real World Championship experience. The first one was canceled. The second one was in that, wherever it was, that bubble thing.
Oh, I think it was in Calgary.
I thought it was Edmonton. Oh, man.
Oh, jeez. We'll have to go listen to our past podcast.
I'm loving this running gag. We have to keep this going. But yeah, I feel like they really wanted Einarson to win, and they're not really going to do anything to support Team Crawford, which I find is sad. The thing that when you see a team lose like this, like let's say the Bengals lose the Super Bowl, you know what? They're going to be back. Like Joe Burrow is in his first full year in the league. They will be fine. Whereas is Andrea Crawford going to get another chance like this? Is Krista McCarville going to get another chance like this? Probably not. And I'd love to see something out there to give them just a little bit more of a chance, because when they can beat these teams.
It's really, it comes down to funding and time, Really.
Yeah.
And granted too, like I think this is the reason too why you see like a lot of juniors stop competing after they aged out. Curling's gotten to a point where, especially in Canada, if you want to be the best of the best or like part of that like elite squad of teams, it has to be your full-time job. Like you have to commit your time 100% to this. If you want to have a career on the side or you have like specific family obligations, like it's just not meant for that. And so I don't want to speak on behalf of like Northern Ontario and Crawford and these other teams, but like even Jean-Michel Menal, like he back when he was still curling competitively, like he made a decision. He's like, I don't want to play like I don't want to be a full-time curler. Like I have a job, I have family
Yeah.
commitments.
He did
And
the math,
so
and he had a quote that I'm going to get wrong, but it's something like, I'm paying the other teams to beat me.
yeah, exactly. So it's, you know, it's like part of the reason why I decided to stop competing. It's like I love curling, but I have other things going on in my life too, and you just kind of have to accept that. And then the stars align one year, you go for it, right? But even let's say if Curling Canada did decide to like open a training center in the Maritimes or like help these other teams like get up there, would they even take the opportunity?
I think so. I think that like they can do it with reason. I mean, for one thing, and I have opinions on this too, which I don't think we'll have time for, but the teams that do play every weekend, that travel, that crisscross the country going everywhere to play in these Grand Slams. So we know who these teams are, Homan and Walker and all this. I think even they're exhausted. I think finding success is about finding this happy medium between being on an airplane every single day and spending time at your job and with your family. And I think that some teams it's exhausted. However, if they have sponsors and if they have a certain, I'm even going to say brand to uphold, they have to be competing in all these tournaments all over the place. So I'd like it scaled back. I'd like them to like tone it down a little bit. I think they too would like to tone it down
I
and to
don't think
have,
that's ever going to happen. But Krista McCarville is a school teacher. Like,
yeah,
even if she had all the money in the world, she can't take that time off.
I know the struggle is real. I have the same job.
Exactly. So at one point, it comes down to life choices. And I don't necessarily think it has to scale back. Look at other or amateur sports. Like every other team who's in the Olympics, these athletes, that's their full-time
Well, you know
job.
what? It's working for them, but the reason I say they should scale it back, Kelly, is because has it been working for Canada lately? I don't know.
Okay, well, this brings us to
Yeah.
if should we jump into mixed doubles? Oh God, I don't even know where to start.
Me
But
neither.
that doesn't necessarily have to do with full-time curling. I think Curling Canada shot themselves in the foot there and are like a big part of they should carry a lot of the blame as to why Canada is
Oh, very
not
interesting.
got
That's not
kicked
what I
off.
thought you were going to say. Why is
Really?
that? Yeah.
So I didn't watch many of the games. Actually, I think
Neither did I.
I watched like one end just because of like the time zone differences. So a lot of the teams that are playing in the mixed doubles, like they knew quite ahead of time that they were
Oh,
going
now
to
I
the
know.
Olympics. A lot of them have even played together for quite a while. Homan and Morris knew that they were going to the Olympics a couple days before they had to jump on that plane to Beijing. They had zero preparation.
And it's not like flying anywhere is at all complicated right now, right?
Yeah, but even that aside, like that affects every team. Like I
Yeah.
don't care about that. But the fact that Homan and Morris barely played together this year, if at all, they knew at the last minute that they were going to Beijing. They had zero preparation for it. Yes, they are two individually like extraordinarily great curlers and the best that we have in Canada, but everyone knows that you can't just take a bunch of good curlers together and expect them to perform just like that because they're good curlers. Like I
Yeah.
think they were really set at a disadvantage and Curling Canada like messed up.
In that they should have had a contingency plan in that they could, and they should have declared a representative sooner.
Yeah, as soon as like the tournament was called off, they should have had like an emergency meeting, picked a
That's right.
winner,
Yeah.
and then like at least give them a month at
That's right,
least.
because that was insane. Like when we
Mhm.
first announced on our podcast that it had been canceled. So what? We went through the teams and we felt it would be Homan and Morris, and then like 3 weeks went by until they finally declared a team, which was outrageous. And the thing that we kept repeating every week was It's a difficult decision, but why is it taking so long? Rip the damn Band-Aid off. The obvious decision is me and Kelly. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
let's
was our
stop that
gag too.
joke.
But no, it was I don't know. But what I was going to actually say is that it wasn't just that was the problem. It was that other countries know who they're sending maybe a full year in advance. And the argument is that, well, Canada picks their representatives for regular curling pretty late. November, December, when you're curling in the Olympics in February, is not a lot of turnaround. And so I kind of like it. I've said that before. I like having this big tournament before the holidays. But for the mixed doubles, had it had happened over Christmas, that's even less time.
Well, here's the difference too between mixed curling and the traditional game is that like yeah, the Olympic trials happens in November, like early December. But the teams, like for the past year or so, they're still playing with the goal to go to the Olympics. So they're still like in preparation mode. They're still, doing everything that they have to do to go to the Olympics, and the Olympic trials is just it's like that gate, right? So they're not necessarily starting from zero. Whereas at the moment, the mixed doubles situation in Canada, like, yeah, we have some teams who are 100% dedicated to mixed doubles, but like half of the teams that were going to play in the Olympic trials were mashups of like two competitive curlers being like, hey, do you want to play in this? And let's do it. So they don't
Yeah.
have that like time to prepare like they would have in a traditional men's and women's team. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Does that make
It's an
sense?
yeah, it does. It's an afterthought in Canada. It's not a
Exactly.
priority.
And it was very clear that it was an afterthought this year. And look what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't really blame them too much just because COVID is a pretty good excuse for anything going wrong. So that's always one thing. However, we could have had a properly run trials and had John Morris and Rachel Homan win it uncontested, and this still could have happened.
Mhm.
So uh, I don't know. I think that we don't take mixed doubles very seriously here, and you know what? Actually, it's starting to change because when we first started following doubles a few years ago, if you looked at the doubles nationals, every province was represented by, and I mean this respectfully, but curlers you and I had never heard of.
Mhm.
And now, when you look at Manitoba, it's Jennifer Jones and Brent Lang, assuming they actually live there. That's still a mystery. When you
Yeah, I
look
have
at
no idea what the residency
when you
situation is.
look at now Kerry Einerson and Brad Gushu, like it's now all the big names are there. But my question is, we all know how good they but are they actively pursuing this? Most of them are not.
Mhm.
It's an afterthought even for them. And I think what this week is, I mean, again, I think we're putting a lot of stock in just one tournament, but I think what it's showing is that that's not sustainable. That's not enough. If you want to beat these teams, you have to actually make this your full-time job, even though I've just been arguing that I don't want that in curling. I want people to have a life and a job, but it can't just be that thing. Oh, well, hey, we missed out on the regular curling. Might as well form a doubles team.
Because the rest of the world, like they have dedicated mixed doubles players.
Yeah.
So they're going to catch up to us if they have not already surpassed us. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't want to put the whole blame on Curling Canada here. Like, I mean, Rachel and Morris were were the ones
Shaky.
competing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't, and I think they would be the first to say it too. It wasn't their best performance, but the role of Curling Canada and like the Canadian Olympic Committee or whatever you want to call them, like their responsibility is to get the athletes prepared for the Olympics. And I don't think they did that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to say on that is that I don't really blame anybody, and I know this always happens when, oh my God, Canada doesn't win a gold medal. The problem with that is that not only are curlers kind of disappointed, but all the curling haters that have nothing to do with the sport but only watch every 4 years feel that we're entitled to a medal in curling. They don't know the whole story. That it actually, the rest of the world is pretty damn good at this too now. I don't really want to blame people. I will. I think that maybe some decisions could have been made better. And you know what? Like the way Homan and Morris went down, which we're going to have to talk about too. Like that was quite the development. I think it's kind of tough to point fingers, and it's not really something that I'm interested in doing. However, I will point fingers at Curling Canada because it'd be different if they took my approach and said, well, you know what? It's really good for the rest of the world. We love curling. It's great to see it growing internationally. But you and I both know Curling Canada does not live by that rule. They desperately want to see Canada win at all costs. They're going to do whatever they can. They're not going to treat Canadian curlers fairly, in my opinion, in order to get Canada to do slightly better. So if they're hell-bent on Canada doing so well, which they are, I feel that there could be some changes to their.
Well, of course, I mean, I don't blame Canada for not caring about the state of the world, the state of curling and the
No,
rest of
of
the
course
world.
not. It's not their mandate.
Yeah,
That's what I feel, but
their mandate is Canada, and like if Canada doesn't win gold medals, like funding is going to start to be cut, which would be disastrous for the sport. So I get it, and I don't blame them for the fact that Canada didn't get a medal in mixed doubles. Like that all falls to Homan and Morris. Where I do blame them is that they didn't set the team up for success. That's where I put the
yeah,
fault
because
on
we
them.
follow them on Instagram, Homan and Morris's mixed team, and we saw that they were training in some looked nice. Like they had this curling club to themselves and banned for something like that.
Yeah.
Looked nice, but I mean, really, was that for 3 weeks?
I think a lot
Whereas
of it,
Team Italy is probably prepared a lot more than that.
yeah, I think it was a lot for show. But yeah, it's just like you want to get the medals and all that stuff. Like I get it. But like make sure your athletes in a position where they actually have a chance to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where I think they faulted. But
But at the end of the day, it's a sport. What are you
yeah,
going to do?
anything
It
can
happens.
happen. So we'll see what happens for the traditional
Right.
game.
But can we talk about that last shot though? Because a lot of people are, and for,
Okay,
and
I didn't even
also,
watch it, so you have to explain to me what
and
happened.
first of all, also like one thing I can't stand, Kelly, at the Olympics when Canada does not do well is that's when the haters come out and say, oh well, we would have won if they didn't
Hmm.
pick Homan and Morris, or if it were these curlers.
Well, that you
And
never know.
that, I mean, that I'm not interested in having that debate. It's we've gone over this before. What did you want? What were they supposed to do in who they picked? Like that was not something that I think we can go
No.
crazy about. But people do that all the time. It drives me crazy. But anyways, so let's just get to that game. So Canada is in a must-win game against Italy because they had actually lost to Australia the same morning. Very interesting because John Morris coached the Australia team. And what was really funny is that Australia has their wide open shot for the win. All they need is a draw to the full 12, but they choose to do a takeout instead of a biter, which is a very awkward call that you don't see very often. And they roll out and it goes to an extra end. And the joke that I made is, that's bad coaching, Kels. It's funny because the coach is playing against them.
I think you texted me that, and I was like, why would you play a takeout when you have an open draw to the 12-foot?
It's unusual. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess not. I don't want to say that they're inexperienced, but it is Australia.
Yeah.
But anyways, they won in the extra end, and by the way, good for Australia.
Hmm.
Also, both one or both of them had tested positive and were somehow cleared to play. That was weird. But anyway, so Canada's in this must-win game against Italy. The Italians are undefeated, and it's this well-played game. It's going back and forth. It's on at the same time as the final of the Scotties.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I had it on my TV, and I had my laptop showing the other, and I'm trying to actively pay attention to both and not doing a very good job. So just to make a long story short, it goes to an extra end, and Rachel's got to draw the pin, or she's got to cover a really good piece of the button. She may have some backing. She throws this rock and John sweeps it the whole way down. And the whole time, I didn't see this live. I had it on mute because, of course, this is not just during the Scotties final. It's in the 10th end of the Scotties final. The worst possible timing. And the rock's coming down and you hear John yelling talk to me about line, talk to me about line, as he's sweeping, and Rachel's standing not really behind the rock. She's kind of standing to the side of John, not getting a good view of the line. And John pounds it the whole way down. And all this to say, he overcooks it. It slides a fraction too far. They had to measure it, and it was super close on the measurement. They even brought the whatever it's called, the stick, around twice, and they concluded that Italy was shot. But
Oh.
he swept it virtually the whole way down. It was one of those botched line calls, botched
Right.
sweeping calls. And I felt bad because, again, that's going to bring out the haters saying, what are they doing? But that happens to all of us. It's just, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate it happened there.
Yeah, like that happens, and I've seen it happen too in the Scotties this weekend.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone about it too. They were watching the Olympics, and they're saying how the dynamic between Homan and Morris was just kind of off. Like there was definitely a power imbalance there.
That's what I'm hearing too. I can't comment because I've not watched enough. But I know Rachel is so stoic and
Well, the way it was explained to me was Morris was being a good like team player and always being like, "So what do you want to do? What should we do?" Like kind of making it a conversation, but it always ended up doing what Morris wanted to do. So it's like he had control, but was like trying to keep the other player like part of it.
yeah.
Is the
I
best
felt
way.
that way when he was playing with Caitlin 4 years ago. I
Mhm.
felt like I don't know how fair this is, but that he was a control freak.
Oh, I just watching him play normally in
I
men's,
know. Yeah,
I seen it.
like that's
Yeah.
a big complaint with Team Cooey is that there's him, there's Cooey, and then there's and Ben Hebert gets his thoughts in there too. There's too many cooks in on that team. But with John Morris, yeah, I get that control freak vibe. However, the thing that makes me look past that is that I don't think there's ever been a better strategist. Like
Mhm.
that he can see so many moves ahead. It would be like if you're playing chess and you move your pawn somewhere. I don't know anything about chess, and he's like, "Oh no, no, don't do that, Kelly, because in 30 moves, his knight's going to take this." And that, how do you see that far ahead? He sees things that I don't even know what he's talking about.
Definitely talented, but that's why I said before, you team dynamics plays such a huge part in a team's success that you cannot take two of the best curlers in the country and put them together and expect them to perform well.
Yes, and I think people might argue. My first thought was, well, they've played mixed doubles together before, and they have, but again, as an afterthought.
Right.
Rachel's been prioritizing her women's team, and John was putting a lot of effort towards mixed doubles, but when Kevin Cooey recruited him, I think that probably changed things. So, had they been playing tournament after tournament and training like the rest of the world was, maybe yeah, or they would have broken up.
Because even in mixed doubles, I find communication is even that much more important. Like you have to be really on the same wavelength. It's just two people. You don't have
Yeah,
like a team, or you don't have like the skip who's really like the lead when it comes to strategy, and like the front end who's more like involved in like changing of the ice and like all that and weight. Like it's just the two of you. So if you guys cannot communicate and like get on the same wavelength, like you're gonna have issues in mixed doubles, which is
it's
great for the
true.
sport. I love it.
I know it's so volatile, and that's a very good point because I think curling is like the ultimate communication sport.
Yeah.
You absolutely need four people working in sync, and when it becomes doubles, now I mean the weight is carried by only two people.
And you know how it is when people like play it for the first time together? Everyone's like kind of polite too. Like you don't want to step on anyone's toes. You're like, oh yeah, maybe we should do the like. What do you think? But like when it comes to those high pressure situations, like people's true personalities come out. So if you haven't had time to like process and like work that as a team, you're set for failure.
That is why I love curling with you because we've known each other for years. There's none of that drama.
No.
If you have a thought, you're gonna give it, and I appreciate that. Like you could, oh well, like it's nice if you do. No, I love how like you're just gonna be like, oh no, we have to do this, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we probably mostly agree, but that's what it takes. You're not gonna win if you're just like, oh well, whatever you think.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, again, to reiterate my first thought, curling Canada, you didn't set the team up for success. Is all I've got to say.
And one more quick thought on that. I don't know if you've seen it yet because this only happened like less than 24 hours ago. But the press conference or the not really press conference, but interview that they gave after
Oh, I didn't see this.
with John and Rachel, it was very unusual. You'll have to watch it. I want to know your opinion of it.
Okay, can you send me the link after we
Yeah,
record?
we'll
I'll
do.
watch it.
But just to set it up, like John is almost fighting back tears.
I can see him. He's an emotional guy.
He is, and he looks right in the camera and he says, "That was the hardest loss of my career." And he's been around. That's a big statement coming from him. And I know he just lost, and people might say, "Oh, it's only for effect," but it's
When you think about it, I think he's had a lot more success than he has failures in his career.
absolutely he's not accustomed to any kind of
He hasn't
failure.
lost much.
No, and I guess also the circumstances in which they lost, in that he overswept this rock. It was pretty hard, and it was interesting because I mean I hate sports interviews. It's always the same. Oh, we got to just try hard and give 110%.
Mhm.
I hate sports interviews. They're so pointless. Whereas here, like he showed quite a bit of emotion. It was a very unusual curling interview, and then Rachel came in and just yeah, what he said pretty much. Something
She
like
was
that.
probably over it after like the third game.
I know Rachel shows no emotion at all. Rachel shows no emotional. And the funny thing is, John had his arm around her the whole time, and it was kind of awkward. She was probably like, "I got to get out of here."
Yeah.
John's just like, "We tried our best, Canada." It
Yeah.
was an interesting interview. I'll need to know your thoughts. So we'll talk about it next week.
When you think about it too, of all the times John Morris went to the Olympics, he came out with a gold medal.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
when he says this is the hardest loss of my career, I believe
Yeah,
it.
especially when you consider it's. I hate to say this, but probably your last go at it.
Yeah, oh, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
like if Jennifer Jones doesn't medal, she's going to be pretty emotional. Maybe not. I think for her, it's bonus that she's even here. Like I think even
Yeah,
she would admit that. So I don't know.
yeah.
I guess that's kind of tells the story of this busy week that was with the Tournament of Hearts and Olympics happening at the exact same time. Unfortunately, I guess the Olympics just started to get going as the Tournament of Hearts was drawing to a close. So I kind of put more of my attention on the Scotties.
Mhm.
Um, Now I'm ready to focus on the Olympics, and look at that, John Morris and Rich Homan are out. So that's not going to happen. But just a couple of Scotties talking points that we should get into here. We covered the fashion last week and how it was bad. We covered the commercials, and that was bad. But I did some research here, Kelly, and you'll be proud of me. I actually put some effort into this episode. One thing that I thought was an absolutely humongous problem at this year's Scotties was the level of what I'm going to call you gottage.
You got it. Okay,
Yes,
please.
and this is every time somebody says, "You got it," when they're in the hack about to throw. "You got it, Kel. Okay, good. You got it. You got it."
Do you know that this is very, I don't know why, but this really just only happens in women's curling. Like the guys don't tell this to themselves.
Okay, well, I want you to say that, not me. But I say it all the time as a joke, but I do it mockingly. And the funny thing is that I had somebody say, like, well, at least it's better than Wait to Broom. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Wait to Broom was original.
Yeah, but wait to broom is also really
It was
annoying.
also kind of weird and
Wait to broom. It's. I think wait to broom is more annoying than tolerance.
I don't know. I laugh at Wait to Broom, but that's because that whole team made me laugh for many reasons. That was one team that had one Scotties appearance and went very far. They went all the way to the final, riding that Wait to Broom saying. Marla Mallet. But now it's not just one team. Every team is saying, "You got it," when they get into the hack. And do you want to know who the worst team is?
Not Chelsea Carey.
No, I think at one time it was her. I blame her for starting this, or
Yeah.
I think it was Jocelyn Peterman who was the one who kept saying it. But so I kept track.
Oh no.
Okay, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. But I had one game on, and I decided as I hold this up, I made a chart end by end.
What's the total? What's the total?
So I counted a grand total of 52 you got it's
In one game?
in one game.
No.
Preface this by saying, do I actually have so little of a life that I would keep track of this? Well, actually, the answer is yes. But that wasn't really what I was doing. I had to work. So I was doing some work. I had the curling on in the background. Somebody phoned me in the sixth end. I was not actively paying attention. And yet I still, every time I heard it, I marked it down on a paper. I counted 52 you got it's. This was during the 1-2 game, or no, sorry, the one of the 3-4 game, pardon me, between Fleury and Einerson.
Okay, hold on. I'm doing some quick math here. Assuming this game went 10 ends, that's about 5 or okay, I'm going to round it up here. So that's 6 you got it's per end divided by 2. Like each team has a 3 you got it's per end. So that's almost one player per end gets a you got it before they throw. One out of every second shot.
I broke it down end by end. So in the first end, nobody said it because they were just throwing takeouts the whole time.
Low pressure, yeah.
But by the second end, Team Fleury was up to 4 you got it's.
I wonder if it goes up exponentially.
There's a curve to it. It rises in the middle and then it drops off at the end. It also dropped off at the end because so did Team Fleury's percentage.
Okay.
It was not a good game for them. But they're saying it nonstop. And I just want to say this because I know this is funny, but in the middle of the game, Team Fleury was much worse than Team Einerson. Einerson saying it about 2 or 3 times an end, whereas Team Fleury is more like 6. There was one end where they called a timeout, and they're only saying it for the third and skips rocks. So they called the timeout. Yeah. Sherry Madaw, the coach of Team Fleury, comes out and says, "You got this, Trace." And then as Tracy goes down the ice, Selena says, you got this. And then she gets to the other end and Kristen and Liz are, you got this, you got this. There were 4 you got it's, whatever we're calling it, on one rock.
Oh my God. I wonder if like all these teams are getting the same sports psychologist and it's the same one who's like instilling
It's
this.
driving me crazy.
No, it's too much.
I know. And like, here's the real problem. And again, I'm going to sound very cynical. But one of the things that we've said a few times now is that the curling was just not that stellar. So when they're trying that triple angle run back because it's all they have and they're like, you got it. No, you don't got it. Who are you kidding? There's no way you're making this. You threw that last wide open draw right through the house. Do you actually think you're making that quad run back? No, you don't got it.
The you got it should be reserved for that draw to the 4-foot to score that end or something, you know?
I know, yeah. Like, it's funny because I know you're supposed to say something uplifting, but credit to Team MacZac, because I feel like they actually tried to give some variety to what they said. They did say something, all right, Mac, let's do this, or something. They changed it each time, I felt.
Okay, but even sometimes just, do you even have to say anything?
No, like, I think what I used to do, and I think I was pretty good at this, I don't know, but when the skip would come down and say what he was going to do, I would be like, okay, good. Or just, and if there was ever a thing like where, oh, geez, you cannot be on the outside. Because I've seen people say, whatever you do, don't be outside. Yeah. That's my favorite quote. If I have to present that, which I usually just keep my mouth shut, but if I have to, I'll just be like, oh yeah, so if anything on the inside and we're fine. Frame it in a positive light, like so that they know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I'm still like from my perspective as when I was a skip, like don't tell me stuff like that. Like I don't care. Like I know what I'm doing.
Oh, I know. And I have to just say that. Like, I only said this if I was asked. Like, if somebody comes down and says, what do you think? I would say, oh, yeah, as long as we're on the inside, we're great. But I'm not going to give my opinion.
Oh, yeah. But one thing I used to do, I don't know, this probably drove my front end insane, but it was just like a habit. And it wasn't, it was just a habit. And let's say I had to like throw a draw, because y'all know I was like the queen of draws and freezes, like low weight shots here.
Oh, yeah. Kelly used to draw against 7 all the time.
But like one thing I always did was always asked about the weight, even though I knew what the weight is. I knew
you told me this.
Yeah, like I knew what I was gonna throw. I wouldn't necessarily ask like what's the weight, but I'd just be like, is the weight the same? Did it change a little more, a little? Like I just asked about it, and sometimes I didn't even listen to their answer. I just like asked it as part of like, okay, it goes to my checklist to know how to throw the correct rate.
The asking and not paying attention was part of your shot routine.
Exactly. So they're probably like, geez, it's the 9th end. Why hasn't this girl gotten the weight down yet? She's thrown draws all game. But I don't know. It was just part of my routine. Like, don't tell me you got this or whatever. I just want to know what the weight is, even though I already know what the weight is.
Even though you're not going to pay attention. Yeah,
exactly.
I do the same thing, by the way. Like, because I skip, not with you, but I skip on Thursday nights. And whenever I come down, somebody says to me, like one of the front end players tells me what I should be aiming for on the stopwatch. And I'm not a big stopwatch fan.
Oh,
so
I don't use it either.
Goes in one ear and out the other. Yeah. I just nod and smile. I hope he's not listening. But
I was like, yeah, don't tell. When I ask you the weight, do not give me 3.52. And they're like, oh yeah, so last time you threw 3.52, but now you need to throw like a 3.55. Like, don't tell me that. First of all, your stopwatching skills are not that accurate. And this is my tidbit if to any curlers out there who want to like become good draw weight throwers. It's all about the feel. You have to like feel what you're throwing. So if a skip tells you like what the weight is, like the correct answer is like just throw a little more than you did with your last shot, throw a little less, like it's sped up a bit, or like
and I totally believe in like this is a new path. Yeah, like this path is going to be slower. We haven't played out here.
Exactly.
That's useful information, but
it has to be just, or at least whoever's going to be my front end, you have to communicate things in relative like feeling terms and not like abstract numbers, or give a number like for the first end or something, because you have like standards, but after that just you have to go by feeling, because that's like what your reference point is. So yeah anyways, so that's it for curling talk this week.
For now. Hopefully we'll be back curling soon as things reopen, and you can bet, Kelly, that when we do, I'll be saying you got it to you every single time you get in the hack, because if we want to beat Team Flurry, we have to say you got it at least 34 times. And one more thing, sorry. Again, I was not actively paying attention, and Vic and Cheryl, and sadly not Russ, but Vic and Cheryl are talking the whole time. I probably missed several.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, this is an undershot of whatever the true number was. So I don't know. The Ugattage level is out of control. It's got to stop. That's the real problem. Not whatever Curling Canada's doing.
Yeah, Curling Canada address the real issue of the Ugattage.
Yes.
And we'll leave it like that for now. So catch us next week.
Take care.
Bye.